Thank you, Samir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Adamov. I'm founder of a research laboratory called NioGuard Security Lab, where I and my students do malware research, and I'm also teach cybersecurity in the universities in Ukraine and Sweden. Not so long ago, I talked about NotPetya at VB 2017 in Madrid, and the destructive Viper NotPetya that was delivered through Medoc as a result of using supply chain attack through this tax accounting software. Same conference, the same time, the researchers from ESET, Anton Cherepanov and Robert Lipovsky, they delivered a talk about Industroyer. This is another threat, destructive threat, industrial malware that we used to attempt to take down electricity in Ukraine. This attack happened in December 2016. So both attacks were attributed to Sandworm group. This group, according to foreign intelligence agencies, US and UK, and other researchers, belong to GRU Unit 74455, which is, as you can see, subordinated to GRU. This is a military intelligence. And this group was responsible also for a chain of destructive attacks, starting with BlackEnergy in December 2015 that caused blackout in the western part of the Ukraine, Industroyer, NotPetya, Olympic Destroyer, and many others. So this year, I put the Vipers and industrial malware attacks on the timeline. And as you can see, the first attack happened at night from 13th to 14th January 2022. As you can see, this is the time before the all-out invasion started in Ukraine. And WhisperGate campaign and other hacks, they were implemented in three main streams. The first stream was the face. You can see the picture that was published on the hacked government website. It was like more than 70 government and ministry websites hacked that night. And it tells like we are Polish hackers. I don't know why Polish, but they say, okay, we hacked your websites and we stole your data and we are going to publish it on the internet. Second stream is data exfiltration. So it was an attempt to steal data from government registers, in particular driving licenses, and also information from DIA. DIA is our Ukrainian government in smartphone. So we have like this electronic ID in smartphone. Ukrainian officials do not confirm this leak. However, some data were published, and the hacktivists discuss if they are real or not. Then stream number three is actually destructive Viper. So as you can see, the Viper were executed in two branches. So here we have a stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 targets MBR and put the 16-bit Viper's code into MBR in order to wipe the disk space, physical sectors on the disk. The tricky part with why it targets MBR, because as you know, since Windows Server 2008 and Windows Vista, it is not allowed to just write data in arbitrary physical sectors on the drive, just getting direct access. It's possible only if you write to boot sectors, which are like, for example, if you have NTFS formatted volumes, then it's going to be first 16 sectors, which is around 4 kilobytes, which is exactly 4 kilobytes. And the first sector is a bootstrapping code. But if you write this code, if you wipe MBR, then it will be merely easily to restore the server. Just you need to use like a recovery disk, live CD, and restore MBR and bootloader. However, if you put the Viper that will be executed after reboot, then the Viper will get access to like the whole partition and will be able to wipe the data. Second stream is stage 2. It starts with a Trojan downloader, and Trojan downloader downloads another .NET DLL from Discord, CDN service. So it was store there as an attachment, and finally end up, after several steps, end up with running FileWiper. So this is a destruction capabilities. If we talk about 60-bit NBR Viper, it writes every 199th sector of physical disk, and the files were written with around 1 megabyte of CC bytes. So downloading malware from Discord as CDN attachment, and I asked, okay, how it's possible, because Discord has antivirus protection implemented like any other file sharing services like Google Drive, Dropbox, because this attack happened before, like a long time before. And I wondered, okay, how did they manage to store malware on Discord as an attachment and then use it in this attack? As you can see, there is a link. By the way, it was not obfuscated, and it can be easily found in decompiled .NET application. And there is a method, but the name of the method, it was obfuscated. As you can see, X letters added to the name of the method. So I just added here a fragment of my lecture where I show how they did manage to store this malware on Discord. The file was called tbopbhjpeg, so it pretends to be like a picture. But if you, for example, open this file in hex editor, you can see that it starts with zeros, which is quite weird. Usually you see like magic bytes, which helps you identify the file. But if you slide down the file, the content, you will see that at the very end is the reversed P header. So they did just a very simple trick. They just reversed the order of the bytes in the file and just put it on the Discord. And it was not detected as a malware. I don't know if it's efficient just to reverse the byte. So I believe it depends on the signature, what kind of signature is used by the protective solution. But that's how they did it. And then there is another question, okay, why reversing bytes? Why not XORing, for example? Or swapping the byte just using this play with little endian, big endian. The trick is when you load reversed bytes into the memory in .NET application, you can represent it as an array. And then you can apply modifier reverse, which means you can, the data in this array will be read from back to front without changing the order bytes actually in the memory. So you don't need to waste time reordering bytes, you just apply modifier for the array. Then it also uses fileless execution. So when this JPEG file is downloaded and dropped, it's not dropped to the disk, but it's just stored in the memory in array. And then the first resource section, so this one, contains encoded another .NET DLL. And it's run using the entity, .NET entity called runtime assembly that allows executing .NET DLLs in the memory without storing them on disk. Another trick that if you have this DLL, you cannot execute it because there is no export, the method that is called, it doesn't exist in export address table, which means the only way to start it, you need to use the same kill chain. And that's why, for example, I used fake netng to simulate, to create fake Discord server and download this .NET library to the file. Then using MBR, again, just some fragment of the lecture showing debugging the MBR code. So MBR code is 16-bit, as you can see, it's shown in the IDA. I use VirtualBox, and I use VirtualBox debugger to debug this MBR. And currently what you see is debugging the first function. There are two functions at all. The first function prints the ransom note message to console. So very soon, you will see like the characters is going to appear here. It's hard to see, but yeah, it's going to write like your drive is encrypted, something like that. And the second function in this Viper is actually enumerating physical disks from like C to Z, and then wiping every 199 sector with CC bytes. So, and yeah, just printing the rest of the string. Your hard drive has been corrupted. In case you want to recover all your hard drives of your organization, then contact like the following way. So it pretends to be like like a ransomware. So let's go further. And well, then we have Hermetic family, Viper, Wizard, and Ransom. So Hermetic Ransom was supposedly used as a decoy and just to overflow security solutions like CM with the security events. Hermetic Wizard is a backdoor that we use to establish persistence and deploy later Hermetic Viper, and Viper, of course, used to wipe the data. So how they were delivered, again, according to asset report, so they Hermetic Wizard delivered Viper via VMI and SMB. Also, GPU, group policy object, was used. By the way, many Vipers in this Russian-Ukraine cyber war were deployed using GPU. It means the attackers, they had persistence on domain controllers on servers, and then used this access to distribute malware using GPUs. Then, as for destruction, there is also quite interesting capability that they use is US disk management software. Like they use legitimate driver from this software in order to get access, direct access to the disk. It wipes MBR, MFT, backups of MFT as well, registry, bitmap, log file for drives, and even Windows events log, which means the attackers, they wanted to just wipe the traces of the attack. And it was attributed to Sandworm by Asset. And yeah, probably the thing I would have started, certificate, why it's called Hermetic, because they have a certificate issued to Hermetica Digital Ltd. But according again to a set report, this certificate was not issued to this company because it exists, it's a real one. But supposedly the attackers, they issued the certificate on behalf of this company. So it was like original, but the company has no relation to this. Hermetic family were executed just a few hours before all-out invasion to Ukraine. And this is a picture that shows like initial plan of the Russia, according to foreign intelligence agencies, how the Russian army is going to take over Ukraine. As you can see, there were a couple of forces going to River Dnipro and Kharkiv. This is my home city, just on the way. So they planned just in 1-2 days to take over the city, as well as Kiev, as you probably know, but of course failed. And my family woke up this day at 5 a.m. and we heard like explosions. They were quite far, but this is how it looks. This is northeast part of Kharkiv. It's 50 kilometers to the Russian border. And in a day later, the Russian troops, they came to this line. It was a front line. It became a front line. And they were stopped by the Ukrainian army and by the territorial defense. And the Russian army couldn't go further. By the way, what you can see on this picture, this is a hospital, just right to the church. This is where I was born. And it was hit later by one of the Russian rockets, and also these residential buildings were also destroyed. The same day, acid rain attack happened. Acid rain was Vipers that were used to break satellites modems that were used by Ukrainian militaries. It was a company Viasat, and the attackers, they used misconfigured VPN appliance to deploy firmware update to satellites modems. But the tricky part, yes, they break the modem, they made them inoperable, and for like a week probably, or even more, they were not able to, it was not possible to use them. Fortunately, later, Elon Musk supplied us with Starlink. So now all militaries use Starlink. Hopefully, there will be no attack on Starlink in the future. But the thing is, due to the attack, the modems were bricked not only in Ukraine, but also in Europe. So all modems in Europe were also affected. Then ISAC-Viper targets some of the Ukrainian enterprises detected by CertUA, said Microsoft, and it wipes the first like around 10,000 hex bytes of each disk, and the name of this Viper was taken from the name of the random generator. And ISAC is not someone's name, but just abbreviation of the random generator, and it stands for indirection, shift, accumulate, add, and count. But later they updated that it was like a different one, so this is probably like the name that it could be given. The interesting thing about ISAC-Viper is that it didn't work from the first time. They couldn't get permission to direct permission to the disk to wipe the data. And that's why they released a new version on February 25 with enabled debug log capability. Then another attack, another Viper attack detected by Microsoft. I don't have any data about this attack. It was reported by Microsoft. But the interesting thing, as you can see, it was written in Golang. And analyzing all the samples, I would say that like a big variety of platforms, languages were used in this attack. So, and I have an assumption that it might be like different people were working, or different subunits were working on different Vipers, because it includes, besides like regular Win32, Win64, and even 60-bit applications, .NET, Python, VBS, Golang. KillDisk. The attack was executed on 14th of March, attacking again a few dozens of Ukrainian organizations. Delivered through GPOs again, and as you can see, it wipes first 1,920 bytes of data using device I/O control. So they having the administrative privileges, you can get access to physical drives, get handled to the physical drives, and wipes the first sectors of the data. And similarly to WhisperGate, it has two streams. One stream, it's file corruption stream, so it targets files, wipes the data in files. Second stream is disk corruption. And once they write this 1,920 bytes, it replaces the MBR, and after it rebooted the system, the boot is going to fail. 00 discovered by CertUA. And it was named because it used two wiping techniques. The first one is like used for performance issues, for performance things. NTS control file, if you set the following parameter, fctl set 0 data, then when you access the file, all the data inside of the file is going to be zeroed. So it's much faster. This is a much faster way. It's just regular iterative writing the files. And the second is traditional one, just using file stream write. The blocks are 4,096 bytes each. It also destroys system registry, as you can see, similar to Hermetic. Final one is in-destroyer accompanied with KillDisk. By the way, as for in-destroyer too, it was recently reported by SAT researchers, again, Robert Lipovsky and Anton Cherepanov at Black Hat US, and it was scheduled to be executed on April 8, And after this date, Viper, KDViper, it's version 2, is going to be run. So why 2? Because this is a new variant of the ransomware. New variants of malware. Industrial is just new variants of Industrial 1, which was executed in 2016. And KDViper, we already seen this Viper before. So what's the trick with KDViper 2? So the purpose of this Viper was to hide the traces of the attack. So it was scheduled to be executed after Industrial 2. And what they did in order to execute like same Viper again, because as you know, it's not a good idea to execute same malware 2 times because it will be detected. And what they did, they used patched Win32 remote. This is a IDOS Win32 remote debug server from Hexrace package. They patched it, and this executable is used only to decode encoded KDViper code, which is pa1.py. And on the screen, you can see this is the argument that should be given to this peremoga.exe. Peremoga, it's in Ukrainian, it's victory. And then this file was used to decode this one, and to decode they used simple XOR. But as you can see, there is like a multi-byte key. It's a 16-byte key. But the interesting thing that they didn't XOR like 60 byte of data and 60 byte of key, like first byte of data, first byte of key, second byte of data, second byte of key, like one-time pad works. But instead, they just XORed the whole key with 1 byte, with 1 byte of the data, which makes sense to have this 16-byte key, which can be due to association rule. You can just roll into 1 byte. Well, this mistake is not crucial because it's just obfuscation. But it gives us understanding that the developers of this Viper, or one developer, has no like traditional education that includes cryptography and related stuff. Attacks on Ukrainian power grid. So why power grid actually is so important? As you can see, all started in 2015 after the war with Ukraine. The war with Ukraine started in 2014 when Russia occupied Crimea and Donbass. And a year later, they successfully executed BlackEnergy plus KillDisk Viper and cut off electricity. Then Indestroyer that I mentioned already. Then the new one that was discovered and failed to be executed. And then they decided, okay, if it doesn't work, okay, let's switch to traditional kinetic weapons. And that's why recently, on September 11, they just hit the second biggest power and heat plant in Ukraine that is located close to Kharkiv, to my home city, with Caliber cruise missiles. It was supposedly launched from Russian submarine in the Black Sea. And here I can see this is a destruction of the 2 blocks out of 3 that caused like 2 or 3 days blackout in eastern Ukraine, like affecting more than 5 regions. So a couple of thoughts regarding the Vipers. So first, Vipers, they can cause long-term destruction, long-term denial of service attack. And it may affect critical infrastructure, specifically energy sector, communication, financial government services that may like push the government to the edge of existence. If you don't have government registers, if you don't have communication, you cannot like send message to your people. And it was a couple of information attacks when Russian hackers tried to convince that Zelensky gave up and signed capitulation. Unselective. So, by the way, this is, so it's about precision. So I give analogy with the Tornado S. Tornado S, it's MLRS. It's a new generation of MLRS. And it was used to hit the city. As you can see, by the way, this is my home university, Kharkiv National University of Radio Electronics, where I teach cybersecurity. And as you can see, this is smoke. That's not barbecue. That's just heat of Tornado S. It was multiple launch of these rockets. And after the Russian army was kicked back to the border, they were not able to reach us without traditional MLRS. That's why they switched to new generation, which were capable attacking through, from the distance 120 kilometers, which means they could reach Kharkiv from Belgorod. This is the nearest, biggest city in Russia. But the thing that, according to specification, they claim that the distribution of hits from this maximal distance is going to be not more than 0.3%, which I calculated is going to be 360 meters. And as you can see on the picture, it's twice or triple time bigger than this distance. And it's not, in general, it's not a good idea to use MLRS because it's typically used to wipe out the square, which is equal like 0.6 square kilometers. And it's not a good idea to apply like this weaponry against the civilians. And if we yeah, and by the way, as a result of this attack, again, about precision, they demilitarized, actually destroyed my favorite bakery, one kindergarten, a couple of residential blocks, and swimming pool. This swimming pool was located just 40 meters from my apartment, from my residential area. This is where we used to go for a walk. But the trick is, I don't think they actually targeted swimming pool. I think there was like another target here. And similar happened with NotPetya. When they executed NotPetya through Medoc, it was not guided, it was not controlled, and it went out of control and infected also Maersk, for example, shipping giant in Denmark. As for acid rain, they bricked satellite modem not only in Ukraine, but also in Germany and in the EU. Misfire. Well, as Isaac Viper, sometimes Russian weapon doesn't work. And S300 versus NotPetya and HermeticWiper. So please raise your hand who knows what S300. So, and you will be wondering, but this is the hit of S300. And what's weird is S300 is air defense system, which means it was designed to hit flying objects, not objects on Earth. But it was, after the war started in 2014, it was redesigned to, from Earth air, they were redesigned to Earth. And now when they have lack of Iskanders that are like next generation missiles, they started using S300 against Earth's target. And as you can see, that it's also not very precise. And the message what I'm going to tell that if you, and this is typical techniques that were used by the Russian army, both on land and in kinetic war and in cyber war, just to patch some existing malware to be used in the cyber operations. And the reason of that is, of course, lack of resources to develop your own weaponry from scratch. Same KillDisk 2, I think they fail. One of the reasons they might fail is that they just reuse already known malware. And yeah, HermeticWiper using EUS drivers. So to sum up, if you do a cyber weapon, please do it well. Because if it goes out of control, it may affect critical infrastructure that you don't intend to destroy. As you know, in Ukraine, we have 6 power plants. And many of them...
We've run out of time,
yeah.
I'm afraid. So sorry about that. Please join me in thanking Alexander for a great talk.